So imagine, if you will, the kind of night that just completely seeps right into your bones.
Oh, yeah, the kind of cold where you just can't get warm no matter what.
Exactly. We are talking about Varna, Bulgaria.
Mm.
It is late October, so the summer tourists have long since packed up their sunscreen and gone home. Now it is just the locals and this freezing cold wind whipping off the Black Sea.
And the rain.
And the rain. It is absolutely pouring down. We are zooming in on this high-end condo complex called the Bacon Beach Residence.
Hmm.
From the outside, it looks like this fortress of glass and steel just getting battered by the storm. But inside it is a completely different kind of assault on the senses.
Right. It's that thumping, relentless bass of electronic dance music.
Yeah.
The kind that vibrates the floorboards and actually rattles your teeth. It is disorienting, and it's loud, and it honestly sets the stage perfectly for the chaos that is about to unfold.
It really does. And right in the middle of this sensory overload, just staring out a window at the rain-slick streets, is a man named Charlie Coyle. Now, if you looked at Charlie Coyle, you would probably see a guy in a sharp blue sharkskin suit. He looks the part of a high roller.
What he's not.
No, he is not. If you look closer at the way his shoulders are tight and the way he is constantly checking his watch, you realize he is miserable. He is absolutely not having a good time.
Because Charlie isn't a partier. He is a security contractor. He is a former French Foreign Legionnaire. He has seen things and done things, and right now all he wants is to be roughly 2,000 miles away back in Northern Ireland.
Yeah, he is not there for the fun. He is there for the paycheck.
Exactly.
So he pulls out his phone, he FaceTimes home, and this moment, it just kills me, the transformation. He goes from this stoic, brooding bodyguard to just a melting puddle of affection.
It's so humanizing.
It really is.
Yeah.
He is talking to his wife, Deirdre, and his 6-month-old son, Ronan, and the kid is wearing this little onesie with camels on it, and he is completely covered in pear sauce.
It's just a normal, messy baby.
Right. And Charlie is doing the goofy voices. He's calling him a store, which means my treasure. He is promising Deirdre, just this one last job, just this one, and I'm home, I'm clean, I'm sober, I'm done.
It is the classic one last job trope, right? But it feels so grounded here because Charlie isn't some superhero. He is just a guy trying to pay the mortgage.
Yeah.
He is guarding a man named Sasho Minshev, who is a mid-level Bulgarian mobster and, frankly, kind of an idiot. Charlie thinks his biggest problem tonight is just keeping Minshev from doing something stupid in a bar. He has absolutely no idea he's standing on a massive fault line.
But the universe has other plans for him. Because while Charlie is making goofy faces at his phone, an elite American extraction team is literally stacking up in the hallway outside.
And they aren't even there for Charlie.
No, they are there for an intelligence asset that Minshev is holding. So the door breaches, the lights cut out, total chaos erupts, and Charlie, being loyal and professional, Charlie steps into the hallway to protect his principal. He's literally just doing his job. And in the confusion crack, one bullet.
And that is the absolute tragedy of the inciting incident here. Charlie Coyle, the man who just wanted to go home to his family, is dead before he hits the floor.
Collateral damage.
Exactly. A good guy in a bad spot working for a bad man.
A meaningless death in a dirty hallway. Or at least, so it seems. But today, in our deep dive, we're going to find out exactly why that single bullet didn't just end a life. It actually started a war.
A war that travels from that rainy street in Bulgaria all the way to the deepest corridors of power in Washington, D.C. I mean, this isn't just a skirmish. It is a systemic unraveling.
Welcome to our deep dive. Today, we are unpacking the incredible source material of The Hard Line by Mark Greaney. It is the latest entry in the Green Man series, featuring the legendary court Gentry. And let me tell you, if you think you know spy thrillers, this one really changes the calculus.
It does. We aren't just talking about a standard shoot-'em-up here.
No. We are talking about a systemic failure of the U.S. government colliding with an ancient, blood-soaked vendetta. Our goal today is to unpack these dual storylines of a massive intelligence breach and a deeply personal revenge mission.
It is a fascinating structure. Greaney is essentially smashing two very different genres together. On one side, you have the techno-thriller, hacked servers and privatized intelligence and silence suppressors and modern tradecraft.
Right, all the high-tech stuff.
Yeah, and then on the other side, you have this gritty Celtic revenge tragedy. The central question we want to explore today is, what happens when the ghosts of the past, specifically what the antagonist calls the hard line of violent ancestry, what happens when that collides with the modern corporate machinery of state-sponsored killing?
The hard line. That phrase honestly gave me chills when I finally understood what it meant in the context of the book. It sounds so rigid and unforgiving. But before we get to the philosophy of it, we really have to deal with the fallout of Varna.
The immediate aftermath.
Yes. So Charlie Coyle is dead. The body is shipped back to Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
And we meet Charlie's father.
John Joe Sheehan, that is the name he uses anyway.
Yeah.
He is a shepherd. He lives this quiet, very solitary life in the hills. He tends his flock. He keeps his head down. He is the kind of guy you would pass in a village and just think, oh, there goes a gentle old soul.
But we know that in these kinds of stories, the quiet shepherd is never just a shepherd.
Never. His real name is Campbell Coyle. And decades ago, he was known as Whetstone. He was a legendary operator for the Provisional IRA. We aren't talking about a guy who handed out flyers or organized protests either. We are talking about a man who hunted humans for a living.
A surgical instrument of violence.
Exactly. But he has buried that part of himself, or at least he tried to.
And there's this scene at the wake. Is so heavy. The atmosphere is thick with grief and rain. It actually always seems to be raining in this story.
It's very atmospheric.
Very. And Charlie's wife, Deirdre, she is completely broken. But her grief has turned into this white-hot rage. She looks at Campbell, this quiet old man, and she just eviscerates him. She tells him, your son's blood is on your hands.
And she is not talking about the physical bullet in Varna.
No.
She is talking about genetics. She believes in this concept of the hard line. She believes that violence is quite literally a disease in the Coyle bloodline. She thinks Charlie was doomed the exact moment he was born because he came from a line of killers.
She basically tells Campbell, you pass this on to him. His death is the result of your sins.
Imagine the weight of that.
Right. Your son is dead, and his widow tells you it is your fault. Not because of what you actively did, but because of what you intrinsically are.
And something inside Campbell just snaps. The shepherd mask falls right off. He doesn't cry, he calculates. He realizes the only way to deal with this overwhelming grief is to do the one thing he is better at than anyone else on Earth.
He decides to hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He finds out the killer was an American. He doesn't know the name Gentry yet. He just knows an American team hit the site. So Whetstone dusts off his old skills. He's going to cross the ocean, and he's going to burn down absolutely anything standing between him and the man who killed his boy.
It is incredibly primal.
Very much so.
So we have the Avenger on one track, a literal force of nature coming out of retirement. Now let's look at the target. Gentry, Sierra 6, the Gray Man. Where do we find him while this massive storm is brewing in Ireland?
Well, Court is back in the fold, but fold is a pretty strong word in this context. He has been recruited by his old boss, Matt Hanley. Now, for those familiar with the lore, Hanley used to be the deputy director of operations for the CIA.
He was a big deal.
A very big deal. The guy who moved the major chess pieces. But now, he is running an off-book operation called Ghost Town.
Ghost Town. I really love that name. It sounds cool, but it is actually kind of desperate when you think about it, right?
It is incredibly desperate. They aren't at Langley. They aren't in some high-tech bunker with global satellite feeds on giant monitors. They are operating out of a discreet marina in Norfolk, Virginia, and a fake medical office nearby.
Talk about a downgrade.
Huge downgrade. It is a shoestring budget. They are buying their own coffee. It is gritty and very grassroots.
But why the secrecy? Why is a former CIA bigwig hiding out in a marina like a fugitive?
Because of the threat. Hanley sits Court down and explains the crisis. There is a massive intelligence leak. We are talking catastrophic levels. U.S. operations in Nicaragua, Tunis, Ethiopia, they are all being blown completely wide open.
Assets are being captured and executed.
Yes. And the terrifying part, Hanley is completely convinced the leak is coming from inside the house.
Inside the house. That phrase is always the worst possible news in a spy thriller. It implies you can't even trust the person sitting at the desk next to you.
Exactly. It means the intelligence community, the IC, is deeply compromised. Hanley cannot go to the CIA security office because he doesn't know if they are the ones leaking the data. He can't go to the NSA. He is completely isolated. He is operating entirely in the blind.
This brings up a major theme in the hardline that I really want to drill down on for a bit. The friction between blue badges and green badges. Could you break that down? Because you know a lot of people might not work in the DC swamp and might not know what that means.
Sure, it is a crucial concept. It's essentially shorthand for employment status, but it represents a massive cultural shift in modern intelligence. If you work for the federal government directly, meaning you swear an oath to the Constitution, you have a government pension, you make a fixed government salary, you wear a blue badge, You are a public servant.
Okay, so blue is traditional government.
Right. But if you are a private contractor working for a massive company like Booz Allen, or in the case of this book, the fictional Gauntlet Group, you wear a green badge. You are a corporate employee. Your loyalty, legally speaking, is to your company and its shareholders.
So blue is government and green is corporate.
Exactly. And over the last 20 years, the ratio has shifted dramatically. You have these massive private corporations doing work that used to be purely government territory, analysis, logistics, even paramilitary operations.
It's all being outsourced.
Yes. And Hanley's theory is that this privatization has gone completely toxic. A firm called Gauntlet Group is essentially replacing the CIA from the inside out. They are profit-driven, not mission-driven, and they are leaking data to maximize their own value. Or even worse, they are leaking it to actively create new markets for their security services.
It is the complete privatization of espionage. If you can buy the spies, you can buy the secrets. And importantly, we should note that we are simply reporting the themes of the book here. The source material uses this setup to explore what happens when profit motives infiltrate national security. We aren't taking a political side on government contracting, but the book makes a very strong argument that it creates a perverse incentive structure.
It absolutely does. And because of this, Hanley has assembled his own little A-team to fight this corporate giant.
Let's talk about the roster, because I love a good team dynamic, especially when they are the underdogs.
It is a great cast, and they really feel like a family of outcasts. First, you have Zach Hightower, codenamed Night Train.
Night Train. That is a strong name. It suggests he is coming through whether you like it or not.
That is him perfectly. He is a former SEAL and Court's longtime ally. He is essentially a human tank. He is posing as a civilian, but the guy just radiates danger.
Yeah, he's the muscle.
Then you have Chris Travers, codenamed Teddy.
Now, Teddy seems a bit softer than the rest. The name Teddy implies something sort of cuddly.
He is softer, but in a very necessary way. He is a former CIA officer who was actually fired.
Really? Why?
Because he had a conscience. He tried to do the right thing in a system that explicitly wanted him to look the other way. So he serves as the moral compass of the group, which actually makes him quite vulnerable in a world that heavily punishes morality.
That makes sense.
Then you have the support staff, Aaron Childers, who is the conductor running the whole show, and Jill Morey, called Gumdrop. She is an OSINT wizard.
OSINT being open source intelligence, right?
Exactly. Finding things on the public internet. Social media flight logs, public records. She can find a needle in a haystack using just Google Maps and Instagram tags. She represents the modern era of spycraft where you don't always need a multi-million-dollar satellite. Sometimes you just need to know how to search Twitter correctly.
That is honestly terrifying if you think about your own digital footprint.
Oh, absolutely.
And finally, rounding out the team.
Arnold Ray is the bricklayer. He handles all the logistics.
Okay, so we have Ghost Town operating out of a fake medical office trying desperately to plug this massive leak. And we have Whetstone over in Ireland sharpening his knives. How exactly do these two trains collide?
Well, Campbell Coyle Whetstone, he starts his hunt in London. He tracks down Marcus Maragos. Now, remember Maragos. He is the fixer who sent Charlie to Bulgaria in the first place. He's the guy who sold Charlie the quote-unquote easy job.
Right. I was really waiting for this guy to get his comeuppance. He is the ultimate sleazy middleman.
Oh, he gets it. Coyle finds him. Maragos is living this high life in London, pretending to be this hardened special forces operator. He has got the tattoos, the fake war stories, all the swagger. But when Coyle walks in...
the real deal arrives.
Exactly. The difference between a pretender and the real thing is just terrifying. Coyle doesn't shout, he doesn't pose or try to look intimidating. He just systematically dismantles Maragos.
It is a brutal reality check. You can fake a resume and you can buy the gear, but you cannot fake survival instincts when an actual predator walks into the room. It is like a house cat trying to stare down a tiger.
Precisely. And under extreme pressure, Maragos spills absolutely everything. He admits he is a total fraud. But more importantly, he reveals two crucial pieces of intel. One, the man who killed Charlie is known as the Gray Man, or Violator.
Okay, so he has a name.
And two, if you want to find the Gray Man, you have to find Matt Hanley.
Boom! The connection is made. Coyle knows his target, but he is just one old man against the entire U.S. intelligence apparatus. How does he plan to actually get to Hanley? He can't exactly knock on the front door of the CIA in Langley.
He is highly strategic. He flies to the U.S., but he knows he needs resources. He needs surveillance weapons, access to databases. So he makes a move that is both brilliant and honestly kind of disgusting. He contacts the Gauntlet Group.
Wait, the bad guys? The corporate mercenaries that Hanley is fighting?
The very same ones. Coyle manages to meet with Big Mike Scardino and J.W. Westwood. These are the high-level fixers for Gauntlet. Now, Coyle doesn't go in and tell them, I am here to kill the gray man because he shot my son.
Right, he keeps that quiet.
He keeps his cards very close to his chest. He simply presents himself as a resource. He knows that Gauntlet has a cleanup list, people they need dead to protect their secrets.
So he offers his services, like a freelance assassin.
He strikes a very dark bargain. He agrees to be their hitman. He will systematically kill the people on their list, who are mostly innocent American intelligence workers, by the way, in exchange for intelligence on Matt Hanley and the Gray Man.
That is just so dark. It really shows how completely consumed he is by grief. He is willing to literally become a monster for the bad guys just to get a shot at the good guy, who he mistakenly thinks is the bad guy.
It is the ultimate deal with the devil, and it complicates everything, because now the people Court Gentry is hunting are technically handling the man who is hunting Court Gentry. It is this incredibly tangled web.
But Coyle doesn't just rely on the corporate suits, right? He has a backup plan for muscle. He goes to Dorchester, Massachusetts.
The Boston-Irish connection, yes. This adds such a great, unique texture to the story. He visits Jerry Kearney. Kearney is an old-school Irish mob boss. He's really a relic of a bygone era. But when he hears that Campbell is the son of Rory Coyle, the doors just fly open for him.
Rory Coyle was Campbell's father.
Yes, and he was an absolute IRA legend. In these specific circles, that name is basically royalty. It commands instant respect. Because of that tribal loyalty and that shared history of, quote, the struggle, Kearney lends Campbell a team. He gives him the Donnelly brothers and the Walsh brothers.
So these aren't high-tech spies.
No, they are Boston toughs. Pure street muscle.
So picture this for a second.
Yeah.
You have a legendary IRA assassin backed by a team of Boston Irish brawlers using targeting data provided by a corrupt military corporation. That is a formidable and weird mix of old-world grit and high-tech evil. It is fascinating how Greaney blends these completely different underworlds.
And they go to work immediately. This is where the body count really starts to rise. Gauntlet is actively conducting a purge. They are eliminating absolutely anyone who might have noticed their data leaks.
It is a literal kill list, and the efficiency of it is chilling. Let's look at the targets, because the geographical spread really sells the scale of the conspiracy.
Well, you have an NSA employee in Hyattsville, Maryland. Coyle takes him out. Throat cut. Very quiet, very professional. Then you have a husband and wife team from the CIA living in Tyson's Corner. They are killed by snare a Jordanian hitman that Gauntlet brought in on contract.
So they are outsourcing the murders to foreign nationals. Why do that?
It is all about confusion and misdirection. If a CIA agent is killed by a Jordanian national, the FBI automatically looks for a terrorism angle. If they're killed by an Irishman, they start looking for European connections or mob ties.
It masks the true domestic motive.
Exactly. It keeps the heat completely off Gauntlet. It is false flag murder on a retail scale.
It is brilliant evil. And amidst all this slaughter, Hanley's Team Ghost Town thinks they have actually found the leaker. They're tracking a woman named Irene Ortega.
Right. Irene is an analyst at the ODNI, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Ghost Town genuinely thinks she is the one selling the secrets. They are watching her every single move, just waiting for her to slip up. But what they don't realize is that Irene is actually the only honest person left in her office.
She is the Patry.
Exactly. She noticed that a colleague, an IT guy named Louis Shaw, was secretly accessing her computer. He was backdating files to frame her for his own leaks. She stumbled onto the conspiracy by accident, and because she knows too much, she lands right on Gauntlet's kill list.
So Gauntlet sends a hit team to silence her. And Ghost Town, who has been watching her this whole time, suddenly realizes, wait a minute, she's not the bad guy. She is the victim.
Which leads to one of the absolute best action sequences in the entire book, the extraction of Irene Ortega. Gauntlet sends a heavily armed team, including a Belarusian assassin codenamed Deep Space.
Greaney really has a knack for these cool code names.
He really does. So Deep Space and his team hit her apartment complex.
It is pure chaos.
Oh.
Court and Hightower realize what is happening and decide to intervene.
Describe the scene for us, because the visual description here is just top-tier thriller writing.
It happens at night. The power to the building is cut, so everything is pitch black. Court and Hightower are using thermal imaging monoculars. So the reader essentially experiences the scene in that grayscale heat signature style. White, hot bodies against cold, concrete backgrounds.
So cinematic.
Very. They see the hit team moving tactically up the stairwell. They engage. It is close quarters battle, or CQB, in a standard residential hallway. Bullets are ripping through drywall. Residents are screaming. It is incredibly claustrophobic and fast-paced.
And this isn't a movie where the heroes are untouchable either. They take real damage.
They do. Teddy Chris Travers gets hit badly. He takes a bullet right to the neck. It is a messy, chaotic extraction. They barely manage to get Irene out. They shove her in a van, and they are desperately applying pressure to Teddy's neck wound as they speed away. It really highlights the severe cost of this ghost town operation. They don't have a medevac helicopter coming to save them. If Teddy dies, he dies in the back of a rented van.
Exactly. But they do save Irene. And she confirms absolutely everything. She tells them, I am being framed. Gauntlet is running the entire show.
This completely solidifies the alliance. The true enemy is finally identified. It is Gauntlet. And by extension, whoever in the government is actively protecting their contracts, they aren't chasing shadows anymore. They're chasing a massive corporation.
But amidst all this gunfire and plotting, there is a very strange psychological game playing out in the background. Court Gentry and Campbell Coyle start talking to each other.
The phone calls. This is the real heart of the hardline theme. Coyle gets Court's number, likely through the intelligence Gauntlet provided him, and he calls him up. And he doesn't just scream threats or curse at him. He actually explains his philosophy. It is almost confessional in a way.
He lays out the hardline theory completely.
Let's unpack that. It is the title of the book, after all.
So Coyle tells Court that men like them are, quote, thorny leaves on a family tree. He genuinely believes that violence is almost a genetic trait in their specific families. He says, my father was a killer. I am a killer. My son was killed. He is absolutely terrified that his infant grandson, Ronan, is going to inherit this violent curse.
He views violence as an inescapable destiny for the Coyle men.
Yes. It is a form of genetic determinism. He thinks he is doomed, and his line is doomed.
And he thinks he can break the curse by performing one last act of supreme violence.
That is the twisted part.
Right. He tells Court essentially, I have to kill you to balance the cosmic scales. If I avenge Charlie, the blood debt is finally paid. The line of violence ends with me. My grandson can be free to be a normal person.
It is such twisted logic. I will murder more people to stop murder.
It is. And Court really pushes back on this. He asks him why. Why can't you just stop right now? Why does your grandson have to be anything like us? Court represents the nurture argument in this debate. He believes he became the gray man because of his specific choices and the circumstances of his life, not because of his DNA. He completely refuses to accept that he was just born a monster.
But Coyle is totally trapped in his own history. And we really need to talk about that history, because Coyle's entire motivation is actually built on a massive lie, isn't it?
A deeply tragic lie. Coyle grew up believing his father Rory was killed by a rival faction during the Troubles. He spent his entire youth fueled by that specific hate. But the book reveals the truth. Rory Coyle was actually killed by his own side of the IRA because he was becoming too much of a liability. But the hit itself was orchestrated from the shadows by British intelligence.
Specifically by a spy master named Sir Alan Glazebrook.
Yes. Glazebrook is the ultimate puppet master of the past. He manipulated young Campbell. He recruited him. He pointed Campbell at the people who supposedly killed his father, using Campbell's immense grief to turn him into a guided weapon for the British state.
Campbell spent years working as an assassin for the very people who actually destroyed his family, all the while thinking he was a righteous patriot.
He was a pawn who thought he was a knight. And the tragic irony is that now history is literally repeating itself. He is working for Gauntlet, the villains of the present day, thinking he is a righteous avenger for his son.
It is a generational cycle of pure manipulation. The hard line isn't genetic at all. It is manufactured by powerful men sitting in comfortable rooms using angry, grieving young men as their personal tools. That is the real tragedy Greaney is exposing here.
It is a powerful message. And speaking of powerful men, the conspiracy in the present day is starting to unravel, and they're getting very sloppy. They kill Louis Shaw.
Right. The Ike guy who framed Irene, Big Mike Scardino, the heavy for Gauntlet, just kills him personally.
Just tying up loose ends.
Yeah, exactly. Shaw thought he was a valued part of the team. He thought he was going to get a massive payout for his treason. Instead, he gets a bullet. It shows that Gauntlet has zero loyalty. You are an asset only until you become a slight liability. Then you're just debris to be swept away.
And then there's Jim Pace. This one really hurt to read. Jim was a longtime friend of Hanley's, still working inside the CIA. He was actively investigating the string of murders.
He was a genuinely good man. He starts connecting the dots between the deaths, but his bosses, Trey Watkins, who is the deputy director of operations, and Olivia Anthony, the director of national intelligence, They shut him down hard. They pull his access. They explicitly tell him to back off the investigation.
And when he doesn't back off completely, because he's a good cop, essentially.
They kill him. But they're smart about it. They make it look like a tragic accident, a hit and run involving a drug driver. It is staged perfectly to look like terrible luck.
This is terrifying because it implies the conspiracy has total control over the public narrative.
Right.
If a high-level CIA officer is murdered and the local police officially rule it a DUI accident, who is going to challenge that? It completely wipes the slate clean.
Ghost Town is truly on their own, and the enemy is getting desperate. Through their access, they managed to hack into the old Violator working group files.
These are the ancient CIA files on Court from back when he was a sanctioned government asset.
Yes, and inside those files, they find his next of kin, his father, Jim Gentry.
Now, Court has been estranged from his dad for years. They have a very difficult, tense relationship. But he is still his dad. Jim is retired and living a quiet life in Florida. Hanley, being the absolute pro that he is, had actually already hired a private investigator named Skip Eccles to watch over Jim just in case.
And thank God he did. Because Gauntlet sends a full hit team down to Florida. They want to grab the father to force Court to surrender. It is a classic trap.
Court gets wind of the op. He calls his dad frantically. He begs him, "Dad, you have to leave right now. Get out of the house. Run."
But Jim Gentry, he is an old-school Marine. He is stubborn to the bone. He says, "I am not leaving my home. I am not running from a bunch of punks."
It is that deeply ingrained stand-your-ground mentality.
Yeah.
It is brave, sure, but against a trained paramilitary hit team.
It is suicide. Jim and Skip Eccles barricade the house. When the hit team finally arrives, a massive firefight breaks out. And for a brief moment, the old man really holds his own. He has his rifle and he is fighting back hard. But they're completely overwhelmed. A sniper eventually takes Jim out.
And Court is on the phone. He is essentially getting the play-by-play of his own father's death. He knows the exact moment it happens.
It completely breaks him. You have to understand, Court has lost absolutely everything else in his life. His career, his reputation, any semblance of a normal life. His father was the very last anchor to the world of normalcy. Even if they didn't talk much, just knowing he was out there mattered deeply. Now that final tether is cut. He is completely untethered from his past.
The grief instantly turns into cold, hard resolve. And Coyle, who doesn't actually realize the father is dead yet, or maybe he just doesn't care, tries to use this Florida leverage. He demands a face-to-face meeting, a duel.
The cemetery showdown. Coyle picks this old historic churchyard. He wants it to be poetic. He thinks, "I will face the gray man here among the dead." It is very dramatic. He sets up his position with his sniper rifle. Court arrives.
And as a reader, you're expecting the massive climax of the movie right here. The rain pouring down, the music swelling, the slow-motion gunfight.
But real life violently intervenes. Just as they are about to engage each other, tour buses.
Tour buses.
Massive, loud, obnoxious tour buses pull up to the historic site. Dozens of tourists wearing bright clothes flood the entire area.
Oh, wow.
It completely blocks the line of fire. It ruins the clean shot. It is such a brilliant and unexpected subversion by Greaney. It reminds us that the normal world doesn't just stop for these epic spy dramas. People are still going on vacation while assassins are aiming at each other.
But in that awkward pause, something very important happens to Coyle.
He hesitates. He starts to process the inconsistencies in his mission. He realizes the intel Gauntlet gave him about Court's movements was slightly off or clearly manipulative. He starts to wonder, am I the hunter here, or am I just the hound being commanded to hunt?
The doubt creeps in.
Exactly. He doesn't take the shot. They both disperse. It is an anticlimax, but it serves a huge narrative purpose because it breaks Coyle's absolute certainty.
The final physical confrontation is delayed. But we are hurtling toward the end of the conspiracy. Matt Hanley has finally had enough. His friend Jim Pace is dead. His team is battered. He goes to confront Trey Watkins, the CIA deputy director.
He demands a face-to-face meeting. He gets in a car with Watkins near Reagan National Airport in D.C. He wants to look him right in the eye and ask, "Why are you protecting these corporate killers?"
And he gets his answer, but it comes in the form of a brutal ambush.
It is an absolute slaughter. A hit team attacks the convoy. They spray the car with heavy automatic fire. Trey Watkins is killed instantly. Matt Hanley is shredded. He suffers severe burns, broken bones, and is in critical condition. He barely survives the attack.
So the big question is, was Watkins the bad guy all along? Or was he just another victim?
It is kept somewhat ambiguous, and I actually really like that. The implication is that Watkins might have been, quote, one of them initially. He likely approved the lucrative Gauntlet contracts, but as the body count rose, he got cold feet. He became a liability to the board.
So Gauntlet cleaned him up too, just like they did Louis Shaw.
Exactly. In this dark world, being the deputy director of the CIA does not protect you from the corporate bottom line.
So Hanley is essentially out of the fight. Court is secretly returning to the U.S. He's a wanted fugitive. He is deeply grieving. He can't even attend his own father's funeral at Arlington National Cemetery because the entire place is crawling with feds who want to arrest him.
This really highlights the extreme isolation of the gray man. He has to mourn his father from a vast distance. He relies on receiving surveillance photos of the funeral taken from afar. He is scanning the crowd in the photos, just looking at the faces of the people honoring his dad.
And then the record scratch.
Yeah.
The moment that literally made me drop the book.
The final shock. In the photo, standing quietly near the grave, is a man. A man who absolutely should not be there. A man who cannot be there.
It is his brother.
Court's brother. The brother that Court has believed was dead for many years. The brother whose tragic supposed death shaped so much of Court's own trauma and life choices. He is standing right there in a suit, very much alive.
Talk about a cliffhanger. What did this do to Court psychologically?
It completely shatters his reality. We talked earlier about the hard line and ancestry, right? Court firmly thought he was the end of the line. He thought he was the last surviving leaf on that thorny family tree. But now,
He's not alone.
the past isn't just haunting him anymore. It is physically standing there at a grave. It recontextualizes his entire life history. Was his brother hiding this whole time? Was he operating as a spy? Was he captured and held somewhere? We simply don't know yet.
It leaves us with so many burning questions for the next installment. But as we wrap up today, let's try to pull back and wrap our heads around the really big themes here. We have gone from a rainy street in Varna to a fake clinic in Virginia to a funeral at Arlington. What is the ultimate takeaway?
For me, it is absolutely about the immense danger of the green badge world. When you outsource your intelligence and your violence to a company like Gauntlet, a company that is fundamentally beholden to shareholders and profit margins rather than the Constitution, you create a monster. You create a system where profit motives can easily justify treason and murder.
And the staggering human cost of that system. Look at the Coyle family, Rory, Campbell, and Charlie. 3 entire generations ground up by the machine.
They were all victims of the hard line. They all deeply believed they were fighting for their family or their country. But in reality, they were just disposable pieces on a board being moved by players they couldn't even see. Campbell Coyle thought he was a righteous avenger, but he was just another weapon being fired by someone else.
And finally, look at Court Gentry. He wins the tactical fight against the hit squad, sure. He survives the book. But look at the devastating cost. His father is dead. His mentor, Hanley, is broken and burned in a hospital bed. And his supposedly dead brother is suddenly a ghost come to life.
It is a totally Pyrrhic victory. He survives, but his world has become infinitely more complicated and painful. He realizes that the hard line isn't just about blood or genetics. It is really about the lies we tell ourselves to survive the terrible things we have done.
That is a very sobering thought. Because if the institutions that are explicitly designed to protect us are quietly sold to the highest bidder, and if the ghosts of our families can return from the grave when we least expect it, who is actually left to trust?
As Court stares at that photo of his resurrected brother, I think he realizes the chilling answer is absolutely no one.
A terrifying place to end it. But that is exactly the world of the gray man. This has been our deep dive into the themes and thrills of The Hard Line by Mark Greaney. We highly recommend you check out the source material for yourself. We hope you will never look at a private security contractor quite the same way again.
Or a tour bus, for that matter.
Definitely not a tour bus. Thanks for listening, everyone. Check your sources, watch your back, and we will see you on the next deep dive.